Join us now for more on the coronavirus relief package. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Leader, it's always good to see you.
Good morning.
I just can't imagine this comes off without some hitches, and we're going to hear all about them. But in general, this is a program that can be implemented by the government and be successful to help small businesses out, Leader.
Well, look what we have done in this short amount of time. We're going to get billions of dollars out to small businesses who need it. Many of them are shut down. But think about what the program actually does. And I give the federal government and Secretary Mnuchin credit. He listened to the banks. He came back in a short amount of time, made the reforms that they were requesting. The form is just 2 pages, really, that you have to fill out. What we're doing here is keeping people employed, keeping doors open. You can get a loan for a short term. Government guarantees it. You don't have to fill it out with the SBA. You go to your local lender. That's something that'll make it work much faster. But if you use that money to pay your rent, pay your utilities, and pay your employees, that is a grant. That's no longer a loan. 75% you utilize to pay your employees, keep people working for these next 2 months, get us through this. That is a grant to you. And as a former small business owner, that's what I would be looking for. That would keep my doors open. If I'm an entrepreneur, I'm willing to take a risk. I'm an American. I know we'll get through this together. This is a program that will help small business stay alive, give them the liquidity for the next couple months, and keep people employed so they're not unemployed.
Leader, wanted to get your thoughts. We had a debate on our air yesterday with Senator Durbin about the bailouts of the airlines. And clearly the airlines are a critical and necessary part of our economy. And anything we can do to keep them in the air and keep their employees working is clearly important. The question, though, is that I'd ask you is whether their shareholders are somehow critical or somehow special, and how you can justify to taxpayers and Americans why saving the shareholders of the airlines was so important.
Well, it's not saving the shareholders of the airlines. What we're doing is keeping people employed. If you watch what we did, an airline is like any other company where they can go in because they're more than 500 employees and get a secure loan. But there's a portion of this to the airlines that we provide to them, much like the small business, of a grant. But it's not for them to buy. They can't buy back their stock or anything else. What it does is it's a guarantee to keep their employees on. We're supplying them money, just like in small business, that their employees stay on, that they're not unemployed. Again, get us through the next 2 months.
But Leader, it's reversed, though. Leader, it's reversed. The grant is up front. Unlike a small business, if they decide that they can't keep these employees on, they don't get the money granted back to them on the back end. This money's given up front. The other thing I was going to add to this conversation is one of the things we've seen is that the airlines over the past decade have actually prevented the government from getting access to people's information, flyers' information, so that in the event of a pandemic, and the CDC and others have been calling for this for over a decade, for the airlines to actually provide this information so they could do tracing to avoid the situation we're in. And the airlines are lobbying and have lobbied successfully, even in this bill, against that. What do you make of that?
Well, I think the airline should work with us because it keeps everybody safer. But the one thing I do know is the money that's provided to them
on a pandemic level right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic and they aren't. And you're giving them the money anyway.
Well, we're in the middle of a crisis is essential. I just flew on an airline yesterday to come here last night to have a meeting in the White House. There were 17 people flying on a plane that held 200. I know that what's flying now is only 6% of the others. Those are thousands of people who would join the unemployment line, so the resources go to the employees themselves. The other is a guaranteed loan from government that gets negotiated by the Treasury Secretary if there's something more they have to give back. They cannot have a buyback, and they cannot give bonuses. What we're dealing with is a crisis that's coming upon us very rapidly. We're trying to make sure the health is provided through the CARES Act, so $140 billion go to the hospitals, the modern-day soldiers who are protecting us. It's also going to make sure that we keep people employed. There might be some things that aren't perfect. You may want to look back that somebody did not agree with us at a certain moment. That is an argument to have. But what's most important right now are health and employees staying on the job. That is the focus of what the CARES Act does. If it's not 100% pure by the way we have to write it and the time we have to deliver it, I'm sure those small things will underweigh what we're doing about keeping people employed themselves.
Are you on board, Leader, for a phase 4, or what? Is that one bridge too far, or you just want to know more about it? The president has a point about when is the time to do some infrastructure. I mean, rates are very low, and maybe it is a good time for that, finally.
We have just passed 3 bills, the largest ever made in American history, more than $2 trillion. I think our focus should be implementing those and making sure they're working. If you're going to do a phase 4, and I'm one who agrees that infrastructure is important, but looking at how legislation is made here and what the Speaker is requesting, it's not about infrastructure. It's about a Green New Deal. It's about Planned Parenthood. It's about sanctuary cities. And it's about changing election law. All the things that she held up the CARES Act for another week, that we'd be talking about the implementation already had she not done that. I think whatever we do in the next phase should be targeted. It should be at the recovery time of when we need to do it. But right now, we should focus on implementing the trillions of dollars that we just passed, keeping people's health and making sure they're secure, but also keeping people employed. That's what the whole focus should be right now. Congress is not in. I'm here. I don't know that anybody else is. From that standpoint, the Speaker now wants to create a select committee to oversight. After in our last bill, we created 3 committees themselves, one with inspector generals, one with a person who gets appointed by the president, and a special one from Congress that the leadership appoints. So I don't think you need that as well. Seems more like political than it does about the care of the hardworking Americans that we should be focused on.
You wrote a letter to, I don't know if you've discussed it yet, to Secretary Pompeo regarding oil production, and then we saw yesterday the tweet from the president about whether MBS and Russia really agreed or not to cut. Do you what are your comments? What did you say to Pompeo, and what do you think the efforts are they going to bear fruit, and to what extent? 10 million barrels sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot, and it's what we need to do. That's why I'm here. I'll be meeting with the presidents and the others in the energy field today with the White House. It's in my district, it's one of the most important jobs that we have out. We produce the second most of any county in the nation. But what we're having here, we're in the middle of a crisis from the coronavirus. We're having a man-made crisis in the energy field as well, with Saudi Arabia actually producing more, harming our energy industry, laying thousands of people off. With Russia and Saudi Arabia fighting together, that's something we do not need. And I want to thank the president for leaning in. Yesterday's tweet was very important, more important for the long-term safety of the entire world, because we're going to have a surplus here now with the economy turning down. But we want to make sure it's protect the energy worker across America, the ingenuity of what we've been able to do in the energy field itself, making us energy independent. I think the leadership of the president is very important, and that's why this meeting is so critical today.